Hey, welcome everybody to today's LinkedIn Live episode. We are showing as the growth and scaling sessions. I'm your host, Todd Westra, and I have got an amazing panelist on the board with me today. And we're going to be talking about how and when you should be retiring products in your product lineup. Every business is different. Some people have a massive lineup of products. Some people have one or two. But in almost every case, as your market changes, as the market changes, your clients also change. Their needs change. What they want you to provide for them changes. And so as we discuss today's topic, I want you to be thinking about your business, thinking about what changes you might need to make in your product lineup and how to retire products that really aren't working anymore. And that is going to be the focus of today's discussion. As I talk about every week, we have 4 stages of our orbit that we evolve into as a business. And when we do this, it's kind of fun because you have these amazing stages of growth. Launch phase, and then you get into orbit and you start thinking, where am I going to take my business? How am I going to shape the trajectory of where I'm going? And this first stage that we do as a business at Moku is we evaluate where you're going. What's your exit? We also evaluate your burnout. What products are you using? What are you leaning on the most? And we talk about your guidance system, your mission, vision, values. Today's focus on stage 1 is going to be this thing. How do you retire products? How do you stop wasting time and energy promoting something that's not really applicable anymore? So we're going to introduce our guest today. We have with us Kenneth, who is a good friend, an amazing marketer, and really a great business coach. And so, Ken, give us a little bit of insight into who you are and what do you do to help other businesses?
Yeah, thanks so much, Todd. These LinkedIn Lives are just incredible because people the opportunity to see not only the growth in their business, but the growth in themselves. Because we all know that at different stages of our business, right, there's different internal growth areas that we focus on ourselves, right, that we have to let go of, we have to come into, we have to realize. So I love this topic. I love, what you're doing here and excited to be part of it. So essentially my role oftentimes is come into an organization, come into usually the founder, CEO, entrepreneur, and begin to see those areas that really don't make any sense any longer, and to see where that quantum is, not just 2 steps, but truly what's the ultimate goal. And what we do then is we reverse engineer that and create structures and systems and processes and pricing and so forth in order to really scale the company from essentially the outcome, the ultimate goal, and backwards, and just in the fewest number of steps in the shortest amount of time, so we can have the greatest result and or impact in the business. So that's basically what I do.
I love it. That is why I wanted you on the show today. This is really, really a fun type of series to have because, honestly, when we start talking about growth and scaling, you really can't grow and scale if your focus is on a million different things. Yeah. How do you help businesses that are focusing on too many things hone it down into either fewer products, less overhead, things that like what do you typically look at first when you go in and try and help a business kind of resolve that issue?
Good question. Essentially, I'm looking at what's the ultimate goal. A lot of times entrepreneurs or founders or CEOs have this big plan. They're at a particular peak. And then what happens is that individual or the inner circle, essentially, oftentimes what happens in companies is that unless you are willing to let go emotionally, the company stagnates itself because it can only grow based upon your level of emotion that's not there. It can't scale. In other words, companies, there's no emotion to them attached to them. They're just numbers games, right? There's no emotion. So, but also they come to a particular point. They're emotionally engaged. They can scale emotionally. I call it the emotional bandwidth. You have to let go of these old patterns or habits or processes in order to step into the new ones. And oftentimes that is an internal process well as a company process, right? So assess those and begin to look at what is that ultimate goal, so we can have those fewest number of steps. That's going to be the key. See, that's how I look at things, is that in order to really step into who you are and really where the growth of your company is, you just need to look at those fewest number of steps that are going to achieve that. You don't have to look at all these processes. Those things come afterwards, right? Those comes after you identify.
So are you telling me that the between this boundary of logic and emotion, a lot of business founders tend on to certain things emotionally, even though they don't make a lot of sense strategically or logically?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly right. And, that's the beauty of Moku, because essentially that's what's happening, right? Because at these different stages, there's these audits, the ability to see what's really going on in the business. And it's not attached to an emotional perspective, because once you understand and how it's actually, how the processes are working and what's not working, for instance, then you can come to that point of understanding, hey, we need to let go of this, we need to refine this, etc.
Right. I think you're exactly right. I look back at some of the earliest businesses that I've ever started, and they generally were very emotionally driven. For example, I had this when I was about 22 years old. I had a co-founder. We started a company doing audio video work. Why? Because we saw our first flat screen TV, and we were so emotionally moved by this flat screen TV that was 7 inches thick and 42 inches diagonal, $18,000. And I thought, this is amazing. People will buy this thing. Everything was based on emotion. 10 years later, even 3 years later, had I tried to sell that size of TV for $18,000, it would not have worked. It was a product I needed to retire. Why? Yeah. Because now there was a 50-inch that cost 10 grand. Yeah. Why would I sell that product that emotionally triggered me to want it? I had to retire it and move on to something that was more relevant for the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. It makes perfect sense. Yeah, I love that.
So what do you do, Ken, when you see a business founder or a business? I mean, you and I have both seen this both on small scales and big scales. Yeah. How do you identify the products that kind of need to be retired?
I think that's where, and I'm going to just kind of relate, kind of pass it on to you, because I think that ultimately Moku, that's what the whole objective of the audit is, right?
Yeah.
It's really identifying what those products are that are, it's business is based oftentimes on numbers and scalability. So let's just say you put out, 9 pieces of content, 3 videos a day for 3 days. You look at those 9 pieces of content, you look at the numbers, you assess which one had the most engagement. You take that one or two, and so of course all the other ones are not gonna work, in the context of scaling the way you want to. So ultimately, that's essentially what Moku, this whole model is about, in my opinion. And so
that's exactly what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like, so you tell me what your take is on, aside from it, for you, is your opinion that the only way that someone is going to find what those products are or services are that they're retiring, is it all only based upon numbers? What is it, in your opinion, what is it actually based upon?
Great. I'm glad you asked. One of the things that I look at first is there consistency in your product lineup? Do they make sense to be together, and do they help the same client type achieve their objectives? No business starts without being able to solve a problem. And businesses that solve a very specific problem are generally the ones that have the most success. My business, Moku, which you've been referring to, has we have a product that is designed around helping other businesses align their sales, marketing, and product teams. Why is this important to me? Because I've grown and scaled my own businesses, and I have had a problem where my teams were out of alignment. It's very easy at launch phase to have everybody in alignment, and everybody's all together because why? Because the founder's driving almost everything, right? They're totally involved in every facet of the business. Easy for people to stay aligned to the founder. Once that business grows and starts to scale, they start putting in a sales director and a marketing director and a product director and even a customer success team. And the minute they start getting too big and the founder's influence is like, he's kind of backing off, now all of a sudden the business becomes siloed. And when a business becomes siloed, they have this ability, that they have this tendency to kind of start overlapping and wasting resources and wasting money. And so my whole business offering, I'm very passionate about it, is to help other founders keep alignment in their business. And I literally have retired almost all of my prior business model because the problem wasn't as fun to solve. It wasn't as relevant to me anymore. It's okay to take a business that, like, for example, Moku was doing entirely like marketing fulfillment for companies. And then it kind of evolved into a fractional CMO model. And now where we're at is like, you can't even hire a CMO until you have this understanding about which products are you trying to push? Who's the avatar you're trying to hunt for? Who is the perfect client you want to deal with? And so, Kenneth, to your point, the first thing I do is I go in and I say, okay, first of all, your business, tell me about it. Like, is there an exit strategy in mind? Are you trying to be acquired? Are you going to hand this off to your kids for 10 generations? Like, what do you want to see this business do? Second thing we look at is your product lineup. Are you selling 50 products when you should be maybe bundling some of these into maybe 2 or 3 things that you could probably package and offer as a solution as opposed to one-off products? When a customer comes to your website, do they know what problem you solve, or is it just kind of all over the place? And so we look at the cost of what it takes to produce a product, your COGS. We look at the revenue you're generating from each sale. How repeatable and scalable is that product? If you had 100 orders come in tomorrow, could you fulfill it? And all those kind of things come into play, because sometimes it's as you mentioned, the emotional part of building a business says, I really want to solve this problem and people want it. And when they don't buy, you got to step back and say, am I missing what people really want, or am I just not messaging it the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's such an important role, actually. So what happens when you come to that point of, like identifying those pieces, for instance, and, you're having those conversations. So what's the next stages of, and by the way, this is totally unscripted. I'm just actually curious.
That's awesome. Well, first of all, let me tell you where I'm coming from on this journey of doing this. At the beginning of COVID, my whole business got wiped out. Like, it was a painful thing. I know some people thrived in COVID. I got destroyed. I got annihilated. And the first place I went to was LinkedIn to try and figure out what I was going to be when I grew up again. And I came to LinkedIn. I started doing, I started being in like pods and started networking with a bunch of people on LinkedIn. And it was super fun, but I wasn't making any money. And so I thought, let's go one layer deeper into not making some money. Let me start a podcast. And so I started a podcast and I wanted to interview other founders who were thriving during COVID. And so I did this. I called it the Leadership and Business Podcast. You can find all the interviews now on the link below. It's links at the GAS podcast, which is the Growth and Scaling podcast. And every interview was inspiring to me. I talked to business founders. I did over 250 interviews in just a short period of time, 13 weeks. And the reason I did it is I was so passionate to figure out, what are the common problems facing other founders? What are the challenges of growth that they face? What are the things that they love about their growth journey? What are the things that they've done to make these pivot points? And in almost every case, Ken, the one of the bigger challenges that a founder was facing in their growth and scaling journey was their people. They had misalignment of people. Their processes were horrible, or their products were they were just kind of out of alignment. Like, it was confusing to a buyer to come to their site and not know what they were getting. So you got people, processes, and product. And I would say that there's other facets of their challenge set, but those were the recurring themes. And I was like, okay, yeah, I've had those problems. I've had those issues with people and products and processes. How do I fix those things? Well, there aren't easy fixes most of the time. And so I set out to figure out, how do I solve this problem? And the way that we solve this problem is by, let's start with the basics. How do we evaluate what your problem is so we can come up with a good fix for the problem? That's where this orbit analysis come into play. The podcast, as you see in the link below, is so much fun because they're 10 to 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes of just pure interview with another founder talking about their favorite part about growth, their biggest challenge with growth, their advice to you if you're dealing with the same challenge. And it's just been a fun project. And so these LinkedIn Lives that we're doing are in addition to that. They're like a supplement to the podcast, because people like you come on who are also specialized in helping businesses overcome these challenges, come in and talk about, hey, you're not alone dealing with this kind of challenges. This is how you solve this particular problem. So that's what this whole thing is all about. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love the model, and that's a great explanation of kind of the back history, right? And how one of the things that I thought was very relevant in this conversation is that you've been doing these and identified with so many founders, and creators and CEOs, those key elements that allow for you to have that clear expectation. Because oftentimes I've wondered, how does he get so much information? How does Todd get so much knowledge? Because I've known you for a while, and so it makes perfect sense. So I love it.
It comes from everybody. It comes from listening, right? And you're a really good listener. That's why this little LinkedIn interview has flipped its stage a little bit. You're interviewing me now more than I'm interviewing you. The reason why is you're a good listener. The podcast has been like no self-promotion, all about promoting the guests on my show. And so I have absolutely loved the experience of learning from these other founders. And I just felt so passionate about, how do I take this information that I just had dumped on me by 250? Now we're closing to 280 founders, because we restarted the podcast. 280 founders worth of information about their growth journey. How do I give that back to the world? And that's what the orbit analysis does. That's what our whole product at Moku does right now. It's just fun.
Love that. I love that. Good job, by the way.
Thank you.
So so what's next?
So what's next is, Ken, if those that are listening, by the way, if there's people listening in the chat right now, don't hesitate to ask some questions like, how do you retire a product? Well, have you ever retired a product? I want to know. I would love for you to list below in the comments, is there a product that you've ever had that you felt like, we're done with this thing, it's just killing us? And how did you get rid of it? I'll tell you I'll tell you some things that I've done in previous businesses of mine. Like, I talked a little bit about the audio video company. That was just a really fun business. And by the way, it's still in business today. I exited it in 2010, and it's still thriving. It's still an amazing business. It's taken on a little bit of a different model, but it's a great business. But I never forget when we started moving, as technology started advancing, as in most technology companies, we had to make decisions on, okay, right now we're doing flat screen TVs, plasma. When LED technology came out, it was like, oh, these TVs are way better. They're way brighter. They're way better picture. They're better resolution. We literally had to change our model. We had to retire the plasma push and push into LED. Did the same thing with lighting controls. Did the same thing with touch panels. For the first part of our business, it was all about the touch panels, and we would have, we're installing like 5-inch touch panels and walls that would cost the client upwards of $15,000 after it's programmed. Now, most of that tech can be done from an app on your phone. We don't have to sell them a touch panel anymore.
Right. Yeah.
How do you make the change? Well, you listen to the customers. They started asking, well, I've got a smartphone now. Can I do this from my phone? And you're like, yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Okay. And we became a better listening company. And I think that most companies, when they jump into the game, it becomes this game of, how do I figure out what my clients really want to buy from me and adapt to that?
That's
true.
You know
what I mean?
That's so true. I was just reminded there's a couple of what SaaS is really, picking up speed now, software as a service. And so I recently was watching a webinar podcast that a few of the, influencers in, different kinds of businesses like webinars and other kinds of, entrepreneurs or agencies, these individuals are basically moving all into SaaS. And so what we did was we built a model where, as an agency, we'll just say that we actually create for customers and clients these self-sustaining SaaS models. So we actually build it. We put all the funnels in there. We put the websites. We put all the triggers, all the stuff, basically as a kind of a business in a box.
Right.
And then set them up as a white label and have their own, a SaaS business, basically, and in most industries. And so I see that that's moving itself forward. So what we did was we basically evolved, we a combination of retire and evolution. We evolved into this new generation of, hey, we have this SaaS model. We need to white label, be able to basically, build something for these entrepreneurs or these business owners or founders or potential, those who want to essentially, and have it all blueprinted so that they can have their own SaaS company. They can have reoccurring revenue and so forth. Right. So
totally. It is an evolution. It is an evolution. And I'm so glad I just saw another guest pop into the green room here on Restream. But I'm excited to have her on here. Casey is someone who has I've worked with in the past. She's amazing at helping companies adapt and retire products, and I was eager to get her on this live. So I'm going to introduce Casey really quick. And Casey, the topic is, of course, retiring products, which we talked about beforehand. Welcome to the show, first of all. Casey, give us a little backstory. Like, you are a messenger. You are someone who helps people write copy and adapt and evolve. Ken was just talking about adaptation and evolution of product in a company. What are your thoughts? How have you seen this happen in businesses you've been able to help?
Yeah, it's important to address when things aren't working or when they could be working better. When you feel that pain in business, there's stagnation. We thought that we'd be growing faster, hitting more of our goals and objectives sooner in the quarter than we are, and these kinds of things. And they're all kind of indicators and red flags of like, well, maybe there needs to be some innovation here. And it sounds like what Kenneth has gone through is like, yeah, we need to innovate. We can use this SaaS. We can use these systems and softwares and keep innovating to stay competitive and to bring more value and to optimize our lives. And I'm all about that, how we can leverage technology. And the thing about technology is that it's changing so quickly. We got to stay adaptable. So that's kind of the name of the game right now. In life, we got to stay creative, stay adaptable to continue this. And, it can show up in a lot of ways. I think not only like when it comes to business products, for example, I've worked with a client in the past where what they were doing just wasn't bringing in as much revenue. They were having all of these free events and trying to get people through the door that way. And I was like, okay, but like, how are you taking the client on that journey and getting them to actually buy something that's valuable to them and where you're making a good profit? And so we go through this process of analyzing, okay, what's going on right now? What's making you the most money right now? You know, and what are the things that are just kind of dragging you down, that are like time wasters, you know, that aren't really bringing a lot of value, aren't converting, and some of these things we need to let go of. And honestly, I like to think of it as kind of like a meditation, or it's that, just letting go of the past. We get so stuck. I mean, it's very human nature to want to cling on to the things.
It's emotional too. Kenneth talked about it. Ken talked about it in the beginning. It's like there's an emotional piece of every product that you're like, oh, I really want to see this succeed. I really want people to, I know this is going to help people, and then nobody buys it. You know, and how do you get over the emotion and dive into the logical part of a product evolution?
I think it really gets back to the questions of like, why are we doing what we're doing? Who are we? Is this really serving the people that we're here to serve? I mean, I'm a very mission-driven person. So for me, it's like, if we're solving the problems and there's value in that and people are willing to pay us, then the business is going to work. But we've got to make sure that we're continuing to like ask that question again. Why are we doing what we're doing? Is this really helping our clients? Are they willing to pay us for this? And if not, then maybe we need to make some adjustments, and it's okay to let go. But I do think of it like practice or like trauma work. Sometimes we got to heal some things. You got to let the past go
100%.
And be here now and really address what's happening right now. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. Sometimes we get so stuck like a cog in the machine about things that it helps to have an outside perspective and to see things that maybe you're missing when you're in the day-to-day grind of it, you know, and you're so attached to the products and attached to the process and the way that you've been doing things and running things. You know, sometimes we need the guide or the coach or someone to help shake you out of it and to see what's not working. I think that can be very helpful.
I love it.
Yeah. And
I like to help do for other companies too is to kind of rattle things up and see like, okay, how can we innovate this? How can we make this better? Maybe I'm seeing something you're not seeing, and together we're stronger. So that's what I do.
Totally. Ken, what do you got?
So many thoughts on that conversation. So yeah, absolutely agreed. And one of the ideas that came to my mind was is working on your business versus in it. And when you're looking at it from the standpoint of maybe every 6 months or a year, you're actually reevaluating, waiting with your team. Like, are we really on track? For example, Chat GPTs, you know, coming up in its ranks, right? And so if we looked at where things are right now, I've noticed that there's a lot of companies just really jumping fast and integrating those components inside their already existing platforms or businesses. And you know, it's one of those things where you want to be conscious of those growth patterns as well, and hey, we can actually jump on this and move it forward. We can quantum using this, but we need to really ponder. It's almost like I always think that one of the ways to do things like that, which is one of the ways that I do it, is you take a weekend off or you take a period of time off. You go to Hawaii or some other place that you're not in your day-to-day grind, and you ponder and you reflect and you relax and you enjoy and you really come to this point internally. And it could be one person, it could be an inner circle, you know, your inner team, where you're really reflecting upon where we're at, what's the ultimate goal still, what is that, you know, where are things basically, but it allows for you to get out of your own way. It allows for you to get out of your own space, energy, and really come to a point of coming back to your, you know, your business with the rest of the team and saying, okay, this is the plan for the new year. This is where we're moving, et cetera, right? Kind of reevaluating that way.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, no.
Go ahead, Todd.
This is what I like about both you guys. Both of you guys are way more reflective than I am. And as I have a hard time doing what you just described, Ken. I have a hard time getting that alone time. And part of that might be because I have 7 kids, but you know, having
Yeah.
reflective time is not the norm for some people. But I do see there's huge value in doing it. And both of you are mentors to me on how to, like, I was telling Casey, I took the day off yesterday. My kids talked me into going snowboarding, and it was reflective for me. I had two of my kids and a daughter-in-law with me, and we were up on the mountain, but it was reflective. And I actually came into this morning with so much more energy because I just took a second, step away from the business for a minute, think about what I need to do to move forward. And today I feel like I've already taken some huge leaps forward.
Yeah.
Whereas yesterday I was feeling a little bit stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's so important.
So you guys, in closing, I don't want to drag this on forever, but give me a thought as to, if I'm in a business right now where I'm feeling stuck and I've got a product that is something I was passionate about, but maybe people aren't buying it as much anymore. What do I do with it? Do I bundle it with something new? Do I just evolve it? Do I leave it the way it was? What are your thoughts? Let's start with you, Ken, since you're on the big screen.
No, let's start with Casey.
Okay, let's start with Casey. Casey, what do you typically do?
So my process would be, like, first, take a moment of gratitude for how far you've come, for what you've built. It's not easy running a business. It's not easy creating products. We get attached to them because they're like your little babies you've created. So, take a moment to celebrate what feels good in your business right now.
Yeah.
And then connect after that. After you've taken that moment, I'd say connect deeper back to the purpose and mission of your business to get realigned again. Why do you do what you do in your business? What impact and meaning do you want to have on the world? And then address, the tensions, like, what are you afraid to do in your business that would bring you closer to accomplishing your purpose and mission, but maybe you're not stepping up to. I think sometimes that can be it. Address, what's not working. Look at yourself in the mirror, whatever that looks like, but really address it with yourself. What's not bringing you happiness in your business or joy in your business? Maybe is that something you can outsource or let go of entirely? And know that also every season of business has new challenges and situations. And so, just keep adapting, get some coaches or some extra support on the outside if you need some second eyes on things. Because I think that having a community to support you can really help when you're going through transformational times. Bundling products, yes, that can work as well. But yeah, right. Or just reach out to me and Todd and we can help you guys.
Yeah. There you go. Kenneth, what are your thoughts?
So there's a model that I've identified that I just wanted to share, and that is what's called being the solution in your industry or being the solution for your industry. Now, there's a small tweak in the way that you see it, that there's a huge impact. I'll give you an example. So you have Mrs. Fields Cookies. You see her in the retail shops, right? She's very popular, so I would consider her the solution in her industry. She's very popular. People come to her. But if she provided the chocolate chips to all of her competitors, like Ghirardelli's and others, she then becomes the solution for her industry. And that changes the game completely. It's kind of like saying you're a coach and then there's a coach's coach. The coaches actually go out to get business. The coach's coach, people come to them. When you're a coach, you're going to go out and you might find people that have money or not money. For instance, when you're a coach's coach, the coaches will have to have money in order to use the coach's services, right? So people coming to you rather than them going out. The point that's being made here is that when you're looking at your business, by the way, Casey, that was exceptional. That was excellent, the way you described that. I just wanted to point that out. The way to look at the point that's being made here is to determine. So one other point I wanted to share with you. So for instance, we had the SaaS company on our end, right? And then there was an evolution to that. And now we're the solution for the industry. We're providing a white label. We've packaged it so that people could actually have their own SaaS companies. So we went from being the solution in our industry to being the solution for the industry, for instance, right? And actually both of them, but I'm just saying there's an evolutionary process. So when you're considering what the next stage in your business is, that you need to either retire something, bundle it, evolve into it, just keep in mind which of those two components that you want to be most of in terms of the percentage of the outcome that you're wanting to impact, because that's going to allow for you to evolve as well as potentially surrender or let go of the products or services that may not be useful any longer.
I like that. I like that a lot. And you know, Ken, here's the thought I want to close with is just, you know, as you're evaluating your business, there's so many ways, so many times where you do need to just continually be thinking, is this helping solve the problem my clients have? Is this problem bringing me clients that I don't want to have? Is there a connection? Is there a relationship between the clients I want to work with and the problem I want to solve? And if your product is not fulfilling both those things, you need to rethink your product, because you have to feel like, I love solving this problem. I could wake up every day and be so excited to help solve this problem. And then you have to think on the other side too, do my clients appreciate the fact that I'm taking this burden off of them by solving this problem? And if you're not doing one of those two things, your business will be short-lived and really wearing on you. And so think of those two things. Does my client appreciate me solving this? And do I like solving this? And if the answer is no to one of those, time to re-engineer, time to rethink it. And sometimes if your solution is outdated, it's okay. You can probably tweak it pretty easily, make it natural, let it evolve with what your client's needs look like and how you like to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So with that, I appreciate both of you so much for being on this live today. And I appreciate those of you watching. I hope that there was some value here that provided for you a way to rethink your product offering, to rethink your business a little bit. And we appreciate you being on here. We're here every Wednesday morning with always some great guests who talk about really key things. You'll see in our LinkedIn the schedule of what's coming up next and how we are going to try and help you on the next week. But we appreciate you being here today and hope you find more information that could help your business in the links below. So thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it.